That third failure in a row, did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up. So many people tried to talk me out of starting a road company. It was crazy. One good friend of mine collected a whole series of videos of rockets blowing up and made me watch those. He just didn't want me to lose all my money. We're doing these things that seem unlikely to succeed, and we've been fortunate, and at least thus far they have succeeded. Now is the time to take risk. You don't have kids. As you get older, your obligations increase. And once you have a family, you start taking risk not just for yourself, but for your family as well. It gets much harder to do things that might not work out.
What kind of characteristics does an entrepreneur need or have to be someone like you?
Well, I think certainly you need to be very driven and have a high pain threshold.
Elon, you are reported by Forbes and everyone else as now, the world's richest person.
That's not a sovereign. I think it's fair to say that if somebody is like the king or de facto king of a country, they're wealthier than I am.
So, but it's just harder to measure. But what people do, so $300 billion, I mean, your net worth on any given day is rising or falling by several $1 billion. How insane, how insane is that?
Yeah. And there need to be reasons to get up in the morning. Life can't just be about solving problems. Otherwise, what's the point? There's got to be things that people find inspiring and make life worth living. When my brother and I were starting our first company, instead of getting an apartment, we just rented a small office and we slept on the couch. And we showered at the YMCA, and we're so hot up we had one computer, so the website was up during the day, and I was coding at night, 7 days a week, all the time. And I sort of briefly had a girlfriend in that period, and in order to be with me, she had to sleep in the office. So work hard, every waking hour. That's the thing I would say particularly if you're starting a company. Well, first of all, I think if somebody is doing something that is useful to the rest of society, I think that's a good thing. It doesn't have to change the world. If you're doing something that has high value to people, and frankly, even if it's like just a little game, or some improvement in photo sharing or something. If it has a small amount of good for a large number of people, I think that's fine. Stuff doesn't need to be changed the world just to be good.
If they want to try to do something big in this world, they want to really have a big positive impact, what advice would you give them?
Try to ingest as much information as you can. Try to learn a little bit about a lot of things. Be useful. Do things that are useful to your fellow human beings, to the world. It's very hard to be useful, very hard. Man's search for meaning.
When you were in college and developing these skills, you wanted to do some things that were of benefit to humanity. Why did you think that? Well, because not everyone does.
I guess it was, I had sort of an existential crisis of what does it all mean, and what's the meaning of life, and it really goes back to high school, I guess. I don't want to give a laboriously long answer, but I had sort of a dark childhood. It wasn't good. Probably partially brought on by reading some of the philosophers. Don't ever read Schopenhauer and Nietzsche if you're 14. It's not good. I was just trying to figure out what does it all mean. And when I read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I think is a great work of philosophy, that sort of highlighted the point that very often the issue is understanding what questions to ask. And if you can properly frame the question, then the answer is the easy part. So I thought things that expand the scope and scale of human consciousness and allow us to better ask questions and achieve greater enlightenment, those are good things. And so what can we do that's going to most likely lead to that outcome?
A lot of people, a lot of experts, maybe journalists, all the kind of, the public in general have a lot of doubt about whether it's possible. And you yourself know that even if it's a non-null set, non-empty set, of success, it's still unlikely or very difficult. Like, where do you go to, both personally, intellectually, as an engineer, as a team, for source of strength needed to sort of persevere through this and to keep going with the project, take it to completion?
I just really not how I think about things. I mean, for me, it's simply this is something that is important to get done, and we should just keep doing it, or die trying. And I don't need a source of strength.
So quitting is not even like...
It's not in my nature.
Okay.
And I don't care about optimism or pessimism. Fuck that, we're gonna get it done. Fly back on Wednesday night, spend Thursday and Friday at SpaceX. In the last several months, then I would fly back here on a Saturday, and either spend Saturday and Sunday at Tesla, or spend Saturday at Tesla and Sunday at SpaceX. So 7 days a week, sleeping in the factory. I worked in the paint shop, general assembly, body shop.
You ever worry about yourself imploding? Like it's just too much?
Absolutely. No one should put this many hours into work. This is not good. And people should not work this hard. They should not do this. It's very painful.
Painful in what sense?
It hurts my brain and my heart. This is not recommended for anyone. I just did it because if I didn't do it, then Tesla, good chance Tesla would die. Don't just follow the trend. So you may have heard me say that it's good to think in terms of the physics approach or first principles, which is, rather than reasoning by analogy, you boil things down to the most fundamental truths you can imagine and you reason up from there. And this is a good way to figure out if something really makes sense or if it's just what everybody else is doing. It's hard to think that way. You can't think that way about everything. It takes a lot of effort. But if you're trying to do something new, it's the best way to think. And that framework was developed by physicists to figure out counterintuitive things like quantum mechanics. So it's really a powerful method.
The first 3 launches failed. We're just barely able to scrape together enough parts and money to do the 4th launch. If that 4th launch had failed, we would have been dead. I tried very hard to get the right expertise in for SpaceX. I tried hard to find a great chief engineer for the rocket, but the good chief engineers wouldn't join, and the bad ones, well, there was no point in hiring them. So I ended up being chief engineer of the rocket. So if I could have found somebody better, then we would have maybe had less than 3 failures.
When you had that 3rd failure in a row, did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up. I mean, I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated. But one of the issues with social media, it's been pointed out by many people, is that I think maybe particularly Instagram, people look like they have a much better life than they really do.
Right.
So
by design.
Yeah, people are posting pictures of when they're really happy. They're modifying those pictures to be better looking. Even if they're not modifying the pictures, they're at least selecting the pictures for the best lighting, the best angle. So people basically seem they're way better looking than they basically really are.
Right.
And they're way happier seeming than they really are. So if you look at everyone on Instagram, you might think, man, there are all these happy, beautiful people, and I'm not that good looking and I'm not happy. So I must suck, and that's gonna make people sad. So when in fact, those people you think are super happy, actually not that happy. Some of them are really depressed. They're very sad. Some of the happiest seeming people, actually some of the saddest people in reality. And nobody looks good all the time. It doesn't matter who you are. So I think things like that can make people quite sad.
Well,
just by comparison, because you just sort of people generally think of themselves relative to others. We are constantly rebaselining our expectations.
And you can see this, say, if you watch some show like Naked and Afraid, or, you know, if you just go and try living in the woods by yourself for a while, and you'll learn that civilization is quite great. It has a lot of it. People want to come back to civilization pretty fast on Naked and Afraid.
And one of the biggest mistakes people generally make, and I'm guilty of it too, is wishful thinking. You want something to be true, even if it isn't true. And so you ignore the things that, you ignore the real truth because of what you want to be true. I think when I was, 5 or 6 or something, I thought I was insane because it was clear that other people did not, their mind wasn't exploding with ideas.
What was your biggest failure and how did it change you?
Well, there's a ton of failures along the way, that's for sure. As I said, for SpaceX, the first 3 launches failed. And we actually were just barely able to scrape together enough parts and money to do the 4th launch. If that 4th launch had failed, we would have been dead. So multiple failures along the way. I tried very hard to get the right expertise in for SpaceX. I tried hard to find a great chief engineer for the rocket, but the good chief engineers wouldn't join, and the bad ones, well, there was no point in hiring them. So I ended up being chief engineer of the rocket. So if I could have found somebody better, then we would have maybe had less than 3 failures.
People who've been in the rocketry business for decades, who say about you that you don't know what you don't know. But when critics say you can't do this, your answer to them is, we've done it. You know, there are American heroes who don't like this idea. Neil Armstrong, Gene Cernan have both testified against commercial spaceflight in the way that you're developing it, and I wonder what you think of that.
I was very sad to see that because those guys are heroes of mine, so it's really tough. No, I wish they would come and visit and see the hardware that we're doing here, and I think that would change their mind.
Did you think, I need to pack this in?
Never.
Why not?
I don't ever give up. I mean, I'd have to be dead or completely incapacitated. Work like hell. I mean, you just have to put in, 80 to 100 hour weeks every week. But all those things improve the odds of success. I mean, if other people are putting in 40-hour work weeks and you're putting in 100-hour work weeks, then even if you're doing the same thing, you know that you will achieve in 4 months what it takes them a year to achieve.